Hello, everyone. Hello to the panelists. Hi, Katya. Hi, Andy.
Hi.
Hi, hi. Hello, Marc.
Hello.
See you with
Hello.
us. Hello. Dan is with us also.
Hi.
See. Hi, Dan. Please unmute you. Please mute yourself. Dan, can you mute yourself? Let's see who else is with us today.
Hi, Shay. Hi, everybody.
Hi. Hello. Can you all please mute yourself while you're not talking? Perfect. Thank you very much. I can see that everyone is here, and I think we can start. Sounds great. Perfect. Hello, everyone, and welcome wherever you are in the world. I'm Shai Davidovich, and I'll be guiding you through today's session on Engineer to Outrun the Next Frontier of Innovation. Right now, I'm in Shanghai, and I don't know where you are, maybe Zurich, maybe Mumbai, maybe Sao Paulo, but we're all here meeting inside this shared space. This in itself is kind of amazing. Every few decades, a new kind of technology comes along that starts to change the way we live and work. It doesn't flip its switch overnight, and in the beginning, it's not always clear where it will become. And that's where we are right now with immersive spaces like this one. You are clicking on your mouse, maybe some of you are joining us with your VR headsets, and yet you're in a completely different environment. Look around, this is just the beginning. So how do we use it in smart, meaningful ways? To help us start a conversation on that, I want to hand it over to Katya and Andy to present us the Metaverse. Katya, over to you.
Thank you very much, Shai, and welcome everybody. So, welcome, and wherever you are in the world today, big welcome to the participants in the Metaverse, participants that are joining us on YouTube and LinkedIn live streams, as well as from the ABB AI Boost Town Hall meeting. It is truly a privilege for us to open this special event. My name is Katja Roland, and I work in ABB Group Digital Communications. What makes this moment even more meaningful is that this event is the result of incredible collaboration of more than 40 people from across ABB, Accenture, Infosys, Formula E teams that have worked side by side for the past few months to bring this vision to life and host this event for a few hundreds of technology enthusiasts from across the different continents, professions, and industries. And special thanks to the incredible efforts of the Accenture team who have met the challenge of creating a full digital world in record times, transforming our vision into reality with dedication, expertise, and love for the craft. This wasn't just a normal project for us, it was a shared mission led by really our big passion, creativity, innovation, and strong belief in what's possible of everybody involved. And we had some fun while doing it too. Behind me, you can see in the video the immersive world that we have created just for you. Here you can deep dive into our Engineer to Outrun world at ABB when we are all about helping industries run leaner and cleaner. You can also see the exciting Formula E area, explore our digitalization and AI area, and watch the Formula E race happening right beneath your feet. Or you can say hi to our ABB avatar, Abby. And don't forget to say hi to other virtual avatars eager to explore and chat about technology with you. Hosting events in such immersive worlds also have some other event advantages. For example, it's perfect for people that suffer from the stage fright. Can you think of some other advantages? We are looking forward to seeing your suggestions in the chat windows across the platforms. As someone working in digital marketing strategy for most part of my career, I'll share something personal with you. Like many of you, I was wondering how to make sense of the flood of information about the virtual worlds, virtual reality, Metaverse, Web 3.0, NFTs, and beyond. Most of us weren't even trained for this concept, and they didn't even exist when we started our careers. But we know now that these technologies are reshaping the way we live, work, shop, learn, and socialize, and they are reshaping these areas now. The immersive experiences are not just about technology, they're about transformation. They're a strategic space where digital-first customers are redefining brand engagement, loyalty, and even the identity. That's why today matters for us. At ABB, innovation is how we help industries outrun, and we call this engineered to outrun. And this mindset of pushing boundaries and moving faster than the pace of change is what brings us together today. We are thrilled to be joined by 4 leaders who are actively shaping this future. Marc Segura, President of ABB Robotics Division. Peter Alkema, Head of IS Tech Platforms at ABB. Dan Cherowbrier, CTO of Formula E, and Raghavan Sundararajan, Head of Infosys Sports Platform. Together, they'll guide us through a conversation about not just what's coming, but how we can take part in building it. So to all the digital marketers, innovators, strategists, and leaders here today, this is your invitation to learn, to ask, to explore, and most of all, to envision what it means to outrun the status quo. Let's begin this journey now, and let's build a future that is not only innovative, but one that is engineered to outrun. On behalf of the entire team that relentlessly work on making this moment happen, thank you and welcome to our immersive experience. We hope you enjoy it. And now I would like to give the floor to Andy Zank, Global Portfolio and Technology Manager for Collaborative Robots at ABB. Andy, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Katja. Andy, before you join us, I just want to let you know that there are hundreds of people with us right now in the Metaverse and watching us, of course, on social media. We have, I see people from Switzerland, Australia, Finland, Egypt, Mozambique, Germany. Welcome, everyone. Please write us in the chat where you're from, and over to you, Andy.
Thank you, Shay. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Metaverse. My name is Andy Zhang, and I'm thrilled to be here to introduce our robotics displays inside the Metaverse for you. So you will see in the video behind me, but also when you enter the Metaverse, 4 industrial robots working together to assemble and disassemble a Formula E car. Now, this may not be a realistic depiction of how cars are assembled in real life, but you can be sure that robots are widely used in the production of cars everywhere in the world, in all the key processes from press automation to body in white to painting, final assembly. ABB robots are helping car manufacturers improve their productivity, flexibility, and quality. To give you a concrete example, did you know that the world record speed for assembling a car body is only 46 seconds? This is achieved right here in China at the GAC Motor Yichang factory. ABB developed a solution in a body shop that puts together 18 robots which position the car body parts together and weld 72 joints on the entire car body, all within 46 seconds. Now let's take a walk inside the Metaverse. So if you walk a little, you will see a GOFA collaborative robot sorting clothes. And behind GOFA on the screen, you will see an awesome video showing our latest robotic solution, powered by ABB's cutting-edge AI technology, the robotic fashion inductor. We're all shopping online more than ever these days, and this is a fast-growing consumer trend all around the world, and robotic automation is here to help. Warehouses and logistics centers need to process extreme high amounts of packages of various shapes and sizes. With ABB's AI solution, one robot can perform up to 1,300 picks an hour with close to 100% accuracy, all without needing to pre-program the robot to recognize the different objects. So you can imagine that this solution is highly sought after in the fashion and e-commerce industry, and we have already deployed it to among the world's largest companies. Now, in front of this video, let's take a look at our GOFA collaborative robot. This is a robot that's very close to my heart because I oversaw the development and launch of it personally. GOFA stands for Go Far, and it helps our customers take their business to the next level. GOFA is a compact, easy-to-use cobot that have special safety features built inside, which enable it to work outside steel fences and into workplaces shared with human coworkers. Collaborative robot means that it can help people accomplish tasks which are hard to fully automate. It is your helping hand for repetitive, ergonomically challenging tasks, such as manual welding, such as loading parts into a CNC machine, or even in a clinical lab environment, loading samples into a testing machine. Collaborative robots like GOFA help businesses large and small to alleviate labor shortage and improve their quality and productivity. Now, in front of GOFA, we can see where in other places, robotics are helping businesses improve their efficiency. So also outside manufacturing and in a place like food service and restaurant. So here you will see a customer success story from a company called BurgerBots, where they have deployed several ABB robots in their restaurant in California. With 2 ABB robots in the kitchen, they bring industrial grade consistency, efficiency, and reliability to the restaurant. And they ensure that every burger meets the same high quality standard every single time. And with robots helping out in the kitchen, performing the most repetitive and time consuming tasks, the employees can focus on what matters most to their guests and where humans add the most value, which is providing good personal service to the customers. So these are just some of the examples of how ABB's robots, together with AI, help businesses become more productive and efficient. Back to you, Shay.
Thank you very much, Andy, and thanks very much for the support for this project. As many of you are already doing, I see you are typing in our chat. And if you see on the screen, you'll see the option to ask questions and participate in the conversation. I see many people have been joining us in the last few minutes and are still tuning into our live stream right now. So please feel free to ask questions either here or in the chat option within LinkedIn or YouTube. We'd be happy to take some of your questions to our participants today, some of your comments into consideration, and give you a chance also to participate in a conversation with our panelists, which I think it's a good segue for us to move over to them. So hello, everyone, again. How does it feel to be sitting here in this virtual panel today?
Fantastic.
Nice.
Terrific, Shay. I spend a lot of time talking about digital twins of robots, so it's actually great to have one of myself.
I prefer the one of myself, I think.
Good to have you. Is Marc with us?
Yes, I already commented.
Perfect. Okay, good to see you, everyone. And I want to start maybe, Marc, with you and talk with you a bit about the innovation and culture within companies. You are part of ABB, of course. Can you tell us a bit about what you are doing right now within the company to bring the future closer to us?
Yeah, so thanks, Shay. Well, very much now we're super focused on combining artificial intelligence and robotics. It's not that we start now, we started more than 7-8 years ago. Because this will enable our robots to be even more capable, more intelligent, more collaborative, and be even more mobile, as they are mobile already today. We need them to do more things in more places, faster and smarter, especially the jobs that we don't want to do. With the integration of AI into robotics, we can enable robotics to move from traditional environments that need to be structured. So that was limiting robotics to be in large factories where you have the same product, a lot of repeatability, and you adapt the environment to non-autonomous and versatile robots, to now robots becoming autonomous, more versatile, and with that, you can bring them to new unstructured places, like construction sites, to warehouses, as it has been said, laboratories for drug discovery, or even flipping burgers in restaurants like Andy shared.
Yeah, over to you, Peter.
Thank you, Shay. Well, just fantastic to be here, and wonderful to see that we've got this project launched. And as you said, very interesting for us to inhabit this fantastic new digital, artificially intelligent space that gives us so much new insights into the future. And from our perspective, Shay, it's wonderful to see how a lot of the capabilities that we look after in ABB from an IT perspective, enable and support a lot of the products and services that we see being so successful in the marketplace. And this Metaverse panel today is part of a broader initiative within ABB called our Accelerator. And we combine a number of activities this week here in Shanghai at the Robotics Mega Factory to create a lot of value, primarily for our business partners internally and their product and application development teams, by supporting them with cloud, data, networking, integration, and everything really that you need as the building blocks on top of which you can deliver value to customers, you can improve the lives of our employees internally, and really just as we do at ABB, help our customers and the industries in which we work become engineered to outrun. And a particular theme this week, as has come through very strongly in a couple of the other panel members' comments, is the dominance of AI. And as Marc said just now, that's been a theme for us for many years. But a number of the use cases coming through the hackathon element of the accelerator this week, really once again showing how we put creative, technical, cross-functional teams together, and you spark that creativity, and they really come up with incredible ideas. And especially when we're working backwards, from our customer needs, and we really understand those pain points, and we can see into the future, and we have a partner ecosystem that supports us with best practices and insights. We were judging a number of those use cases today, and I can tell you it's really exciting to see from an internal perspective, into the crystal ball of what is coming in the next few months, all enabled by the technology and the platforms that we provide to the rest of ABB, and the fantastic engineering, R&D, product-facing teams across the rest of the organization.
Mm-hmm.
So, Shay, fantastic that we can talk about this in this environment. And last comment from my side is that the Formula E, provides a great metaphor for how we want to drive and really speed up innovation inside ABB to just get that value out into the marketplace even quicker. And if you think about a racing championship like Formula E,
Mm-hmm.
Every race people get better and better, and you drive higher and higher performance. And this is our 5th global ABB Accelerator. At every accelerator we run around the world, the teams reach for higher and higher levels of performance and greater levels
Mm-hmm.
of creativity. Thanks, Shay.
Sure. You're mentioning innovation. You're mentioning ABB Mega Factory here in Shanghai. We are seeing a video right now from our robots in action in the video in the back, just for you to give you some idea of what we are talking about when we're talking about innovation. Raghavan, I have a question for you. I mean, we're talking about innovation and making sure that there is innovation culture within companies, within organizations. What do you think holding organizations today back from scaling innovation?
Thanks for asking that question, Shay. I think innovation is definitely the need for every organization, and almost every organization puts it at the top of their agenda. So this question that you ask, what holds it back, is a very important one, and I'll answer that from a general industry perspective, my understanding of it. I think there are two things that are very important for innovation to finally yield the kind of result that every organization wants it for. One is most innovation projects succeed at demonstrating the art of the possible, or what we would call as the proof of the concept. But for an organization, the real value lies in taking what has been successful as a proof of concept stage, but take it to the real production line and see it succeed there. There it has to be able to stand up to the kind of scrutiny that an organization would subject it to, whether it be on the security, privacy space, or the user experience, and various aspects. So it has to. That's one of the things that organizations have to really work a lot towards in being able to take innovation and extract its fullest value. That's one possible reason. But if I may add one more reason, it's the culture where people are allowed to be adventurous, fearless, and failures are not punished too severely. Failures are caught early, but it's the effort that is recognized rather than the result of the effort. Of course, the result of the effort is very important, but in order to foster a culture of innovation, the organization has to truly believe in the value of innovation. In our organization, if you look at it, our chairman, Mr. Nandan Nilekani, is a tech visionary, not just confined to our organization, but even at a national level and at a global level. He has been pioneering some of the largest public goods initiatives, technology-led initiatives in India and beyond. So the belief of the value of innovation starts at the top and is harnessed bottom up also. It's not just top down. It's a beautiful combination of the top down and bottom up. So to summarize, I would say there are three things just to summarize it. One is the ability to extract the value out of successful innovative initiatives is one reason. The culture that not only celebrates the success but also can tolerate the failures. And lastly, an organization which leads from the top down on the belief of the innovation and encourages bottom up innovation. I think those would be some of the things that I would like to share.
I couldn't agree more. I think that we're talking about the top down. Maybe hear a bit more from Marc. Marc, someone has been leading it within ABB for years. How do you see the challenges for innovation within companies, for scaling up innovation?
Yeah, very, very much agree what's been said. In ABB, we have 4 values. The 4 C's: collaboration, courage, care, and curiosity. I think we need to leverage all of them to, deploy innovation at scale. The curiosity and the courage goes hand in hand. We need to create an environment where people is pushed to go beyond and above, break the barriers, overcome the boundaries. And we need to do that with care, making sure that people is not only we, for example, are having systematically approaches with the startups. We have our innovation startup challenge on AI, where we have successfully brought problems to the community, brought in a number of ideas from startup with the anchor and customers, and we have been able to, first succeed on item picking, later on visual slam for mobile robotics, and lately we are developing generative AI with a couple of startups to talk to robots. So innovation needs the environment, needs the care, the push for curiosity, and the courage to do it, and ultimately it's a collaboration exercise. So I think if you remember those 4 C's, they also play very well into innovation.
Thank you very much. While you were talking, we've seen some Vislam, the demonstration of Vislam in the video behind us for the audience. And I'm super excited to see people using the chat and making some comments there. If you have any questions, again, for our participants, feel free to just type them and we'll try to get to them towards the end of the panel today. Dan, as part of Formula E that we've heard a few comments about today, we are right now within the metaverse. We're all meeting here. How do you see the value potential of VR, virtual reality in the world of where you're coming from your industry?
Thank you. The joy of the metaverse that we've sort of discovered in the last couple of hours is it allows for a much wider access to what sometimes we're thought of as elitist areas. We've seen examples where you're able to try a fast lap, for instance, by being and experiencing it in this place in a way that we wouldn't be able to do. We are investigating whether you could drive the streets of New York, say, at high speed, something you could never do in real life. We can do it in this kind of environment. And that's the things where you can really step outside of reality if you want to and experience something that nobody could do for real. And I think that's what makes it really exciting.
What about you, Peter? How do you see that?
Well, Shay, it's very interesting. This concept of digital twinning really spawns a number of use cases. And as Dan mentioned, certainly in Formula E for drivers to sort of experience and visualize the track, from the comfort of their VR headset is really very interesting. But then also from a manufacturing and engineering perspective, and, Marc touched on the fantastic work in the robotics business area that we do, but across electrification and process automation. There are so many examples where, creating that virtual equivalent enables us to simulate, what's happening on the conveyor belt in the factory, in that operational site, and often, harness the vast amounts of data that we have, feed that into that simulated environment, and then change certain parameters and dimensions and figure out, how we can optimize flow and drive efficiencies and improve product quality, with a very low risk, minimal interruption to the business. And that just drives, again, the speed at which, we can then, take those solutions to some sort of minimum viable product. As I mentioned, at the Accelerator, we see a lot of, early prototypes and something that is workable, and that we can then prioritize, and as Marc said, quickly get to a point where it's driving value into the marketplace, making a difference for our customers. So that digital twin concept, very much enabled by the new technology that we have available today. But the key comment I would say is that to pick the use cases that are going to be the most valuable and drive the most amount of value. So for us to experiment with that in this virtual world today with this panel, and as Katja said, to look at it as a digital marketing experience for our viewers today and the general public that are able to access this on LinkedIn and YouTube and various other means, really means that we're democratizing the value of our discussion, the insights that our panel today are able to provide. So Shay, fantastic that we've got that available to our business inside ABB, and certainly we're at the forefront of making sure that we use that as well as many other technologies, to power our amazing products and services.
100%. You also mentioned Formula E, and I think, of course, Dan was talking about that. So for those of you who had a chance before the panel to walk around within the metaverse, you probably have noticed the Formula E cars driving around, making some noise. And if you haven't had a chance already, do it afterwards. The metaverse is going to be open for you to walk around and experience some of that. Marc, I want to go back to you, from Robotics and ABB. And I want to hear more from you about innovation and current innovations within robotics when it comes to AI and the metaverse. Where do you see this democratizing the access of people to these tools?
Yeah, I mean, we've got a lot. I mean, robotics is a place where any virtual technology has a big importance. We pioneered 3D simulation with our very well-known software Robot Studio, and it started as a design tool basically to simulate the motion of the robot. But as technologies have become available, we're bringing that beyond purely a design tool. It is already a great advantage to not to have to build physical expensive prototypes from a cost and time perspective. You build it in 3D in a virtual environment, you test it. And now we are adding more high fidelity of those testings, because we can simulate, physics, we can simulate light conditions, we can simulate more and more elements. And of course, the ultimate is to simulate a complete line or a complete factory in a virtual environment. Now, that being important enough, we have moved that from, let's say, edge to a cloud-based system, so that there is this element of collaboration between the owner, the end user, ABB, the system integrators who have helped build those factories. And that can be a digital twin then for the lifetime of the facility, because basically the project that resides in the cloud is the same and continuously updated with the shop floor. And there is yet another angle to that, which is artificial intelligence. We are more and more deploying robots that have certain AI being trained. And it has been trained many times with different technologies, but the technologies evolve so fast on AI that you want to retrain the fleet of robots. You want to upload the learnings from the fleet of robots to the brain. And that also can happen in a virtual world. So in the virtual world, we've got the fleets of robots who are trained on certain capabilities with AI, They are deployed to the physical world. In the physical world, they continue to learn, and then we upload it back to the cloud where the brain resides to have a continuous growing learning of the robot fleets individually, but also collectively. So from design to build to now continuously improve and add capabilities to the robot, digital twins of complete factories are the present and the future.
Marc, just a comment. We are seeing right now, again, the video from the burger bots that you've mentioned before. A couple of words about that.
Yeah, as I said before, I mean, robotics was born and grown in automotive, and still a lot of exciting things doing there. But it went then into manufacturing of electronics, phones, laptops, video games. Later, we expanded into logistics, warehouses, e-commerce. We're expanding now in laboratories. And of course, every new segment where we can enable robotics to support it will happen. But some segments need more investment on structuring the environments. The more we can give this autonomy and versatility to the robots, the more things like burger bots will become affordable and possible. So you should expect robotics to continue to conquer more segments in the coming years.
Exciting to see where this is headed to. Dan, maybe a question for you as part of Formula E, of course. I mean, how do you see? I mean, we're talking about at ABB quite a lot about our mission to zero, about our being engineered to outrun our clients. Maybe a question about how do you see your work within Formula E? How do you see Formula E contributing to sustainability goals?
So I think Formula is obviously founded on the concept of trying to drive a sustainable future and how we might be able to do that, how we might be able to support the growth of the EV environment. And arguably has done that quite successfully. It's grown beyond all expectations. What it now does is that next stage of starting to drive other innovations. The big one of them that we're doing at the moment is what we can do with AI and how we can drive elite sport the best we can with AI, but also how we can start to democratize the access to it through the same pieces. Things like our driver coach does that really well and starts to change that narrative. And I think if you imagine 10 years ago when Formula E started, we weren't really even thinking of AI, certainly not at the scale that we have now. And so you have to imagine what we will be in 5 years' time. And I think the dream in 5 years' time is that we can make the experience with someone in their living room the same as if they were able to come to a racetrack, and we can take that experience to everyone right around the world.
No, definitely. I'm thinking we're looking recently, of course, with new innovations also from big tech companies using the metaverse, bringing at least VR headsets and making it more accessible, developing technology around that, and reaching more people is definitely going to be a big part of that. I want to take some questions also from the audience because we have quite a lot, and I want to make sure we are covering all of them. So Peter, maybe one for you. And the question is coming from Morgan, and she's asking, she asking, do you see this technology becoming more useful and compelling as new hardware and things like they're mentioning Android XR that was in the news recently, as more of them are being introduced?
Shay, absolutely. And I suppose, if you look at innovations, life cycles, you've always got the very early adopters. And, we saw that happening years and years ago. And perhaps it's all about timing, and it's all about knowing when different technologies are actually going to converge. If you look at the greatest breakthroughs that we've had, it's often when two or more sort of parallel topics combine into a use case, as I mentioned just now. And so in the case of the sort of 3D simulated environment that we're occupying now and that Marc mentioned, we do a lot of work in, the computing capabilities that we're seeing available now in the cloud world and the sort of dramatic rise in the speed of processing that we're getting is allowing us, as I mentioned, to, harness and harvest vast amounts of data, feed that into the artificially intelligent models that we develop. And the quality of that is all only going to get better and better. I think the challenge is then just to predict, where the value actually comes from and where the expectations meet the reality. And you'll have some people that will miss that and overinvest at the wrong time. and some that are obviously, too late to the game. So it's a fine art to, balance that, and then also make sure that you're getting the basics right. It's good to drive the transformation, but it's also important to make sure that we have a secure, highly resilient technological environment within which we can experiment and really look to the future and make sure that we're well positioned to harness those technologies as they come towards us. So ultimately, yes, we've seen dramatic increases, and certainly in the virtual reality world, where those textures and that experience and the form factors. Like today, we've mentioned that you can access from a web browser or a phone or any sort of two-dimensional environment, but equally we've got people joining us, from fully immersed virtual reality headsets. And so as the world sort of grapples with various different elements, we saw, for example, Google Glass come and go, and various other experiments, and one has to learn from that, adapt that, put that into a creative, fail-fast environment, like I think was mentioned just now. And where teams are given permission, because they can't always predict and analyze exactly what's going to happen. We only learn by doing in many cases. I think all of those factors will combine to give us the best possible timing to take advantage of those technologies.
I think you make a really good point in there, that we have to also recognize and celebrate the people that take it after the innovation point and then make it into a reliable product later on, which can often be missed. The excitement of the innovation is great, but how do you then make that something that you can actually use and return some value from?
Dan, that's such a good point. And if I look at what we do with our accelerators, for example, we'll often have a funnel at the wide end of sort of 300 use cases. And that funnel ultimately, best practices in the industry is going to produce maybe 5, 10, at most 15% viable prototypes that, as you say, can then go forward into some sort of investment cycle to become productized. So we make sure that we incubate those successful use cases, that we support those teams to take those ideas forward. They will hopefully have a working prototype. They need to then have sponsors and support to make sure that that project continues to be successful. And that, as you say, moves into the sort of normal project life cycle of a corporate environment. And many that have fallen out of that funnel, you've learned that's something not to take forward because it's not viable, it's not going to work, or maybe the timing isn't correct. So that full innovation life cycle, I think, as you mentioned, is almost just as important before and after, as you mentioned, to ensure you get the most value from it.
Raghavan, maybe a question for you. I'm looking at also the questions in the chat, and I'm wondering if you have any answer for our audience. So one person is saying that they find this format exciting and interesting, but they are asking, how would you address concern that it may reduce personal connections? And we hear this question quite a lot about innovations generally, about technology that has this effect in the end of the day on our lives.
It's a very good question, and it could very well affect what by personal connections I mean. This person is possibly talking about physical connections,
Exactly.
possibly, right? I mean, today, why do we crave for physical connections? I will take a slightly contrarian view on that, if I may. When we started reading books, I'm sure that before the advent of the language and the books, knowledge was always transmitted in person. But very soon we were able to adapt to an education system where knowledge need not always be imparted orally. You could gain it from the writings of the great people. And so virtual world has been a part of our civilization for as long as there is the letter, the alphabet of the language. So there is nothing to, I think physical connections, physical relationships will have to compete with virtual relationships for relevance 5 years, 10 years down the lane. And that's how it will be. Every relationship will have to live up to higher standards, if I may say that word. For example, I watch a movie. At the end of the movie in the metaverse, particularly with the advent of the large language models, it's quite possible to imitate the voice, to play the role, do the role play of the creators of a movie. So imagine me having an interaction at the end of the movie with the creators of the movie, the director, the music, the composer, the actors, the editor, and understand the creative choices that they have made. This is not possible in the real world at all. But I can just have a nice discussion with a friend of mine, knowing that it's a real person. But here, I'm having a discussion with the avatars that faithfully represent people who I may never have access to in my real life. So yes, real relationships will be challenged by virtual relationships, and whether that virtual relationship is agreeing with everything you say or critiquing everything you say is all based on how you desire it to be, how you configure the prompt of the avatar to be, and on all of that. But I don't look at this as human spirit has always looked at every one of these things as challenges that we would love to rise up to, and I'm sure this will only elevate the humanity and the relationships to live up to a higher standard than probably where it is. Shai, that would be my poetic take on that, if I may.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking also when I heard the question. I mean, the fact that we are all of us here sitting virtually together having this conversation facilitates a bit more connection. At the same time, we understand the concerns people have around that we heard generally with technology. Maybe a question for you, Peter, that I'm seeing also in our chat. What makes innovation at the end of the day responsible? Not just the metaverse right now.
Well, I think innovation, it means different things to different people. So for us, it means achieving practical business value in the shortest possible time, in the most creative possible way. And so the responsiveness and the responsibility comes through in a number of different ways. The responsiveness, I feel, comes in the diversity and the sort of curiosity value that Marc mentioned, in terms of which we bring everybody to the table that has all the different possible viewpoints that can be harnessed to get the best value out of some idea or prototype, and then accelerating that through a process, as I mentioned. And the responsibility aspect of innovation really goes to the heart of our ethical business practices, and making sure that we're working within the guidelines and obviously the regulations of every country that we operate within. And that might sometimes mean that we're sort of really pushing the boundary in some cases, but always within those responsible guidelines. And it's often those creative solutions that then create some value in that world of increasing responsibility and duty to care, and the sustainability responsibility that we all have. And certainly, as we've mentioned, we aim to help our companies run leaner and cleaner. So that responsibility shows up in our respect for the environment. And I certainly believe that technology and analytics and artificial intelligence and metaverse, like we're experiencing today, if we're meeting today, there's a lot of efficiency and a lot of reduced costs and impact on the environment from having a lot of people travel to the same venue to get together physically. So I think there are some of those responsibility aspects that's come through in technology. And again, at ABB, we really try and find the right balance. Certainly, there are reasons to get people together, and that human connection really drives a lot of business value. But then equally, there's the efficiency of meeting like we do in this exciting virtual world. And the last thought, I suppose, would be what we see in our accelerators is a mix. We run it in person for about 100 people that have been together with us here in Shanghai. But then we've had 400 people virtually attending and having an absolutely fantastic experience from around the world, but then enjoying being in their own home during the week at the same time, and getting and receiving the most value as well through that experience as well.
I want to ask the same question to Dan also. You've mentioned about Formula E and how you see this, the technology being used and innovation being used to give it more accessibility for people to participate in the games and in the races, and having a chance to attend them within a metaverse or within virtual realities. How do you see responsible technology, and what do you think about innovation, responsible innovation?
So for us, I think that responsibility is intrinsic in most people. But what holds it back is not having the information and the knowledge. And it's important that we share and we give that. Everyone's now very aware of when they get on an aeroplane that has an environmental impact, when they drive a car that has an environmental impact. They weren't decades ago, but we are now because we've got that. The bit that needs to come and the bit that we need to work on is everybody understanding when you ask Gemini or you ask ChatGPT a question or you give it some work to do, that also has an impact. And working through the cost, the economic cost of that compute and how we do it and how we drive it is important. And I think it's going to be our learning over the next couple of years.
Thank you very much for that. I want to just read a few comments we're also seeing on LinkedIn. Lucimara she's saying about ABB historical innovation leader to the society. Thank you. How do you deal with the transition periods of technology shift? Similar to where we are right now, if we're talking about AI, for example, while consumer maturity has been building versus the time to market, today's innovation is for now. Maybe a question for you, Marc.
Yeah.
The gap between where the market is,
I think this is becoming increasingly both an opportunity, but also a risk for companies, because the opportunity space is only growing with technology advancing in so many fronts at the same time and such a speed. But here, my recommendation is that you really need to have roadmaps that span multi-years. You need to have technology roadmaps that support product roadmaps, and you need to have a portfolio and manage those, because some will make it, some will not make it. If I can refer back to our example of robots using artificial intelligence to pick objects they have never seen before, to go from structured environments to unstructured environments. We started 8 years ago convinced that this will be a very big opportunity space, that robot need the capability to grasp things on their own, things they've never seen before, things that they will always be new. So we started with some, relationship we have with MIT, taking some algorithms. We started our team in Silicon Valley building on algorithms. We then had our logistics experts in the Belgium Global Solution Center engaging already some customers to start to test that and see the KPIs. Is this good enough? Is this cheap enough? Is this fast enough? Is the quality of pick good enough? Well, we've been working 6-7 years to get to a maturity stage where now we have large global blue chip companies in parcel distribution, in fashion, deploying this at scale. During 6-7 years, we have changed the architecture of our neural networks 3 times. And 2 years ago, we had to migrate to, transformer models, generative AI models. So, this it was one stream that made it. Okay, we persevered. We could have stopped much earlier and said, guys, this is, waste of time and so on. And we had to abort many others. So I think this is just to simplify. You can be successful. You'll need to have a clear end goal from the beginning. You of course can pivot, but within a portfolio of initiative, you really need to have a mix of, high potential, high probability, and more of a risky bets, because the reality is that we don't know what we don't know. But somehow statistics and perseverance and vision works. So if you have, again, a portfolio of things and you stick to the plan, you need to be cognizant. Some will make it, some won't. But if the ones that make it are good enough, then you create an advantage.
Marc, there's a quite interesting question in the chat also. It's a bit about cybersecurity in that sense. We have quite different adversarial firmware and machine learning threats going on. Maybe a question about just a bit about how ABB sees it.
Yeah, of course, cybersecurity, of course, is only getting more important. And the more we go digital and the more we go connected and everything is connected, and you've got a real world replica on Metaverse, of course. And in big capitals, cybersecurity is number one. We take big steps as ABB and in ABB Robotics. Our new controller, Omnicore, for example, is meeting and exceeding all global standards when it comes to cybersecurity. So just to log into that robot controller, the access to the computer of the robot controller now has to fulfill, the most stringent, protocols to be able to connect back and forth the information from that physical robot to any server, any cloud to begin with. But then on the use of AI, of course, there's a lot of things that we took a lot of care of. For example, AI, by definition today, the techniques that are being used is non-deterministic and non-introspective. So you cannot secure 100% what the robot would do. You cannot know why it has decided to do it because it's not introspective. So to make robots, AI-driven robots, fully secure, safe, you need to understand the technology, and it doesn't mean you cannot use that. But in the end, when robot is going into the action, you need to make sure that there is enough safety from the planning coming from the AI. So you can really be deterministic and introspective, meaning the robot is going to do this and this, and I know what, under what conditions it's going to do. When the robot is stationary and caged within a fencing, you can be maybe more relaxed about certain things. When the robots, like our robots, starting to be autonomous and roam around humans and people, you need to be on beyond the safety, and that we need to take care. We need to take care from a cybersecurity in terms of access to our computers, back and forth from edge to cloud, and then the technologies we use, especially on AI, we have big scrutiny on where the things as they are can be used and where they cannot be used.
Mm-hmm. There's a very interesting conversation also in the chat about AI hallucination and what it means for robotics. Very interesting to see the comments from people on that. Raghavan, I really liked what you described earlier about human connections and the metaverse and what it means for us. Can you describe for us, it's a question also from Michelle in our chat, can you describe for us some benefits that the metaverse has, in your opinion, when comparing it to Teams or Zoom call, something we all kind of used to at this point?
Yeah, I think Metaverse, and Peter and Dan already talked about it a few minutes back. I think the digital twin is definitely an important use case. I would add a few more to that, probably. But digital twin is by far the leader in the use cases, I would say. The ability to learn hazardous operations, for example, cleaning up nuclear waste, or those kind of environments. So if the training has to be given about any hazardous operation which is either very expensive, like landing an aircraft, or cleaning a nuclear waste, or any of those kind of things, in either dangerous or too expensive, all of those are ripe pickings for the metaverse, one would imagine. But beyond that, instead of if the avatars is definitely another use case. Like I said about the movie, at the end of the movie, you can talk with the directors. Imagine Warren Buffett is your financial advisor, Shai. That's very much possible today. You can, as long as as long as the commercialization is all sorted as to how does Warren Buffett get recognized commercially for being used as an avatar for you. So anything where it's not a physical operation like a surgery, anything which is virtually possible, which is just talking to you and offering you advice on any aspect. All of those are ripe pickings for the metaverse, I would imagine. The third use case is something that Dan talked about, which was like racing in the New York. I would extend that and say, imagine you starting your day with going to the gym, where you're running on the treadmill. At best today, you're watching a TV screen in front of you, and you're having a virtual run in any of the landscapes. Those are some of the experiences where you could be running in a Boston Marathon, simulated Boston Marathon, or you could be running with an Olympic runner. So it's quite possible to elevate the dreary experience to a completely different level, rather than try to imitate something that is today possible. It should be possible to elevate your experience to a completely different level, and then you might be willing to take a virtual experience in place of a real experience, I think, Shai.
Definitely. Very exciting ideas you're bringing here. I want to finish with one question for all of you. And this is a bit about the future ahead of us. And I want you to take a moment and try to make your boldest prediction for the next 5 years. Let's not go further than that. Of any industry innovation that you anticipate that's going to reshape our lives moving forward. And maybe Dan, we can start with you.
I think in the next 5 years we're at the very precipice of the one that's AI that's going to change the way we work and how we work. Probably the kind of jobs we do. I'm not a subscriber to the sort of doom theory that we won't have any jobs. I think if you look back at the last 100 years of innovation in technology, there's still a shortage of skilled labor, and we need people to make things happen. But I think we'll look differently on how that world works, and it'll be a lot more about how we can think and what we do with our hands, and less about how we operate machinery specifically.
Peter, what about you?
Yeah, Shay, I'll jump in here as well. A well-known statistic, and it's important for any large organization wanting to, take advantage of AI, is the quality of their data and the governance and the classification that they've applied to that data. And it's built up over many, many years very organically. And to get the most benefit out of AI, you have to put all that data together, understand it somehow, and then obviously train the models, that we've spoken about. And typically, and it's according to Gartner, less than 5% of organizations have data that is ready, for these advanced AI use cases. So there's a degree of hype, I think, in the expectation of AI, given some of those challenges around the data. So my prediction for the next 5 years is actually that AI itself is going to be able to solve that problem. And what we see with the multi-agent orchestration that we see in the generative AI tasks and prompting that's very popular today, I think will ultimately extend, let's say, backwards or internally into an organization's vast sea of data that at this stage, with our human knowledge and intelligence and human imperfections, let's say, are unable to conquer. The AI itself, once we sort of understand how to let it loose in a constructive and responsible way into our organizational databases, will then be able to, reduce the hallucinations, improve the data quality of the reporting, and overcome some of those, let's say, inherent structural sort of legacy data structures that all organizations struggle with today. So just once again, I think an interesting use case for AI itself, helping its own future, given the data hungry nature of a lot of the AI use cases we've been speaking about.
Marc, Raghavan, what about you?
Yeah. So as I said, we've been working on AI for 7-8 years, and now we're getting the large scale first deployment of one of the applications. I think we can think about things going exponential. So the next increments of innovation will not be in 6 years, but within this 5 years time frame. From our perspective, AI will make robots more autonomous and more versatile. This will enable robots to be in more places, as I said at the very beginning. But that will go hand in hand with the virtualization of the robots, not only for the efficiencies we gain today, like with Robot Studio, shorter commissioning times, less engineering hours, but the training of the robots. So you will see robots being trained in the metaverse, in virtual environments, in replicas of the factories or the kitchens or the hospitals. The robots will be trained there. The robots will be deployed physically, but they will always constantly be having a dialogue with the metaverse to update back and forth the AI trained models from what's learned in the shop floor, what it's newly trained in the general brain. So more robots in more places, robots more autonomous and versatile, leveraging AI, but an AI that works both in the real physical world and in the metaverse.
I'll go last, Shai. And I'll make it a little, I'll try and describe this from the personal level and then extrapolate to the organization level. I think if a man from the caveman time came today and saw us all efficiently go through our daily life as to how we take care of our basic needs of existence, the awe, shock, and surprise that cavemen would experience is what I think we will experience when we look at how efficient we become 5 years from now. I mean, today, taking a photograph is not even considered anything skillful, but you can go back just 40 years and manual exposure to know that just taking a photograph itself was considered a skillful thing. Not anymore, of course. So it's going to be the same thing for unimaginable things, whether it's making a movie about your vacation, or making so many movies about your vacation or your daily life, or creating music, not just by lazy prompting, but with a lot more, the kind of things that we couldn't even imagine doing in 50 lifetimes. We might be able to achieve that in a much relatively faster pace, and so we will be struggling with how to consume interesting content, not just outside of us but about us also, because that it's also becoming so interesting. So our challenge is going to be, how do we balance our life of creating value to sustain ourselves financially, in a world that's dominated by generative AI, and while doing that, how do we and then how do we entertain ourselves? What is the concept of a free time, and how do we keep ourselves entertained in our free time, and continue to, it's going to become so much awe and shock and surprise filled when I try to imagine what it's going to be 5 years from now, Shay.
Sounds very interesting. Thank you very much, Raghavan, and thank you all for the participants who took part in the panel discussion today. We're finalizing our panel right now. Thank you, Andy and Katya, Marc, Raghavan, of course, Peter and Dan for joining us. And special thanks to Accenture for crafting and hosting this event today and making all this happen. Now this world is open for you. The space of the metaverse that we created is available for you to step out and explore. It will remain open for the next 2-3 hours for you. So once this session is over, you can step out of the audience and start walking around, interact with each other, go to our robotics stand and go see, of course, the ABB Formula E cars driving around us. We were very happy to be with all of you today. And we want to thank you for joining us, the hundreds of people who joined us here within the metaverse on our social media platforms, and invite you to keep exploring ABB's innovation moving forward. Thank you very much, everyone.